8 o'clock tonight, the President of the United States will address a joint session of Congress to talk and give his State of the Union address. Among those who will be in the room where it happens is Representative Joaquin Castro. Congressman, thank you for joining us. I know you've got to get to the floor here pretty soon, but in the time we have, what do you expect or what do you want to hear from the president tonight?
What I want to hear is about the road ahead, and Americans are still facing some challenges with inflation, obviously, whether it's the price of gas or cost of different goods when they go shop at H-E-B or Walmart or wherever it may be. So a plan for that, of course. But there's a lot of victories for the president to celebrate over the last few years, bouncing the country back from the worst pandemic that the world has seen in a century, and bringing the unemployment rate in this country to the lowest that it's ever been since 1969. So I think you'll hear the president talk a lot about the economy, but I think the president knows that there's still work to do. And hopefully he'll find a receptive Congress in both Democrats and Republicans who will work with him to tackle these issues for the American people.
Do you feel like there is hope for that, hope for some bipartisan effort now with this new Congress going forward?
You know, I remain eternally hopeful. The Republican Party there's been a lot of infighting, to say the least, among Republicans in Congress so far in the House of Representatives. But look, the president has laid down a marker and said that he's willing to work with any member of the Republican Party, including the Speaker, who's willing to work in earnest on behalf of the American people. Immigration,
obviously something that dominates nationwide, but of course in San Antonio. Do you think there's a bipartisan effort out there to get something done on immigration?
Immigration is one of those issues that Congress should have dealt with a long time ago. We came close in 2014 with a comprehensive immigration reform bill, but it's been difficult since then. So the one thing that gives me hope is the last time there was a real reform bill that moved, passed the Senate with flying colors, and then the Republican Speaker unfortunately refused to put it on the floor for a vote. But that was the last time that we had divided government like this. So if there's any silver lining in the arrangement right now, it is that for immigration, it is that the last time you had this, there was actually a real comprehensive proposal that came from the Senate. And so, yes, I'm hoping that we solve this issue, that we handle it. It's long overdue. I think people agree, no matter what their politics are, that our immigration system is broken and that Congress needs to step up to fix it.
There are a lot of big issues that I'm sure the president will touch on. One of them, of course, being immigration. You mentioned the economy earlier, and that's something that affects all of us day in and day out, no matter where you live across the country. And there has been some improvement there, but is there something that you would tell people to look for in this speech that shows further signs of, things slowing down when it comes to inflation, interest rates, all of those daily reminders of what it's been like the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think they should look for what the president says about stemming the rising cost of housing and rental, apartments in San Antonio and across the country, for example. And also, as you all know, corporate America has been laying off a lot of workers in different parts of the country. So I think the president will likely address that as well. But this is a president who comes into this term of Congress with a very strong track record of creating jobs and bouncing the country back from a very deadly and dangerous virus that we had not seen in over a century. So he comes in with a strong hand here.
All right, so whether it happens or not, we're going to at least keep talking about bipartisanship, Congressman. And when it comes to the debt ceiling, are we going to see movement on that? Do you get the sense that Republicans want to shut the government down at this point? I mean, I have not heard that from the Speaker, but there are some members of his party that have said that.
Yeah, I mean, that's very troublesome. What we've been hearing from Republicans in the House of Representatives is that they want to try to use the debt ceiling as a way to, for some of them, to shut down the government. And so, as Democrats, we have said that, of course, we're open to negotiating on appropriations, on a budget and so forth. Making sure that we're fiscally responsible. But at the same time, it's the way to do it is not through the debt ceiling debate. That's a matter of the United States paying the bills it already owes. And so, I'm hoping that Republicans will walk back from the brink on that one.
Is tonight's speech, in your view, as much a State of the Union address as it is a campaign speech for President Biden?
I mean, he's in the congressional chamber, so I think it's mostly going to be a celebration of the things that have gone well over the last few years, but also a serious look at what we need to tackle as a country. But of course, those themes are going to overlap, I'm sure, with the kickoff of his presidential campaign here. I would imagine in the next several months.
Yeah, and not just him. I mean, I imagine there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be making speeches, after this that have aspirations for higher office.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think you've already seen a bunch of Republicans start to line up and get ready to run. So the campaign season is coming.
Representative Joaquin Castro, thanks so much for sharing some time with us before the State of the Union tonight. We'll all be watching.
Good to be with you.
Take care.
Keep up to date with all of San Antonio's top news, weather, and so much more by clicking the like and subscribe buttons below. And once again, thanks for watching KSAT.